The message they want to convey to you is state power will always win. We'll paint you as a child molester, and we'll paint you as a methamphetamine manufacturer. We'll say any lie we want over our propaganda machine, the mainstream media, and we'll burn you and your children in your fucking home. So you just be apathetic, America. You stay docile, and don't you ever forget, you're free to do what we tell you.
How's it going, everyone? This is Jordan with Below the Tension, and you are listening to a brand new episode on this Saturday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is a great day. The weather here in New Mexico has cleared up. It was cold and rainy and cloudy pretty much all week, but yesterday, just in time for Friday, the weather cleared up quite nicely. There's been a lot of news this week. You are listening to the latest episode on this Saturday. I do an episode every Saturday, and I do other episodes throughout the week as news and opinion comes up. But every Saturday, there will be an episode. Now, before I get into the news here, I have some follow-ups on Libya. Bernie still wants Obama's kill list. I'm a pedophile, not a monster. Got some Venezuela news. Got lists of conspiracy theories that have been proven true. Hate crime hoaxes. And some other key news. But first, I have to go into some inside baseball libertarian stuff. Now, elections are great because there's so much activity politically, and a lot of people get involved, and there's great debates, and people really get to see where they fall. And I think that's great. I think that everyone should be more involved with what's going on, just as Ron Paul did in 2008 and 2012. He brought a lot of people into the fold, and it was great. And we built a community around him, and he allowed all of these people to come together and get connected and still stay connected to this day. But this election has really vetted out who understands the philosophy of liberty and libertarianism and free market economics and anarchism, and those who, for lack of a better word, were fair weather people. Bernie and Trump have broken people either left or right. You have the Bernie Sanders supporters, democratic socialism, blah, 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 on the left. And you have now this neo-reactionary, alt-right, post-libertarian movement that has broken right from the liberty movement and libertarianism. Now, you do whatever you want, but don't, if you were going those ways, break yourself from libertarianism completely, because you're not one anymore. Just so easily you could get on with Ron Paul and libertarianism, you broke off. And if all of you people that went Bernie, and if all of you people that are all about Trump all got behind the Libertarian Party candidate, we wouldn't have this issue. It's plain and simple. Now, when it comes to the Libertarian Party, there are three people running. Gary Johnson, who is, I would say, for lack of a better term, the presumptive nominee. You have John McAfee, and you have Austin Peterson. Now, ask anyone who's a libertarian that's above 21 years old or so, ask them what they think about Austin Peterson. The guy is a slime ball. If you watch the debate on Stossel, it was like a puppet just churning out these, stereotypical libertarian lines. It wasn't even like he was saying anything. Ask anyone, or of him. He is one of the most reviled creatures in the movement. He was a producer for Judge Napolitano, and that's really where he got his little name to fame. But now he is trying to get the Libertarian Party nomination. Just like this pedo that I'm going to talk about, they have a look. Austin Peterson just has a look. Like he's a slime ball. And he is. He has come out against really the core nature of libertarianism. He talks shit about the non-aggression principle. He's arrogant. And he puts people around him that are arrogant as well and reviled. Okay? Now, at the end of the day, Glenn Beck goes on to endorse him. That should say everything about this. That should tell you everything. Glenn Beck was the guy that told his members, his followers, to fast and pray for Ted Cruz's victories. Okay? Glenn Beck is pretty much thought of as a Judas goat as well. So you have two Judas goats buying together out in the field. Now, I don't know what his deal is, but here's the quote. Austin says all the right things. He is my guy now. Glenn Beck. That's not a good thing to be touting. That's not something to be proud of, Austin. You slime ball. And speaking of Glenn Beck, he went to Zuckerberg and Facebook and basically made nicey nice with Mr. Zuckerberg. He went and spoke with other conservatives with Facebook about reports that they were censoring conservative news. And here's the next person I'm going to come after, Nick Gillespie at Reason. Also, Reason, ask any libertarian, it has faded. It is a shadow of what it once was. It has gotten to be basically just a conservative website. Now, Gillespie comes out in a story titled Zuckerberg Should Have Told Conservatives to Screw Off. And he makes some mainline libertarian points that the senator shouldn't have been saying anything to Facebook about how they operate. John Thune said, I want an answer by May 26th. No, there's no reason. Shut up and keep robbing the country. And he also makes the point that Facebook is a private company and they could do whatever they want. I agree. But no one flips onto Fox News and thinks they're going to get a liberal view on things. No one's going to turn on MSNBC and think they're going to get a conservative view on things. Nobody goes to Pizza Hut thinking they're going to get Taco Bell. Facebook brands itself as a non-biased open forum where all views are held equally. That's fraud, Nick. And that is against libertarianism. That is against the non-aggression principle. Defrauding people. And basically, he tells everyone complaining about this to just shut up, make better content, and it won't matter. It's fraudulent to have yourself branded as an open forum and then start censoring people politically. So, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I get it. The government shouldn't be involved with Facebook And really, they could do whatever they want, but they need to come out and say it. I don't go to KFC looking for, the best stuffed bell pepper recipe on the planet, okay? It's fraud. All right, enough of inside libertarian baseball. On to some news. This is an update from the ISIS or the Libya story that I talked about earlier in the week, that Libya is asking for the arms embargo to be lifted. The Human Rights Report came out just days after the United States and Western countries threw their support behind Libya's newly formed government being armed. And the title of the story is Report Details Scenes of Horror in ISIS-held Libya. Now, this Human Rights Report comes just a couple of days after this proposal is sent out to say, hey, we need weapons. Some good timing there. A leading international rights group on Wednesday released a documented atrocities of Libya's Islamic State, including crucifixions, shooting a man to death for cursing God, among others. The Human Rights Watch recounts scenes of horror that follow the city's seizure by ISIS militants in February of last year. The militant branch known as ISIS gained a foothold in Libya amid chaos that engulfed the country since the ouster and killing of longtime autocratic leader Muammar Gaddafi. Yeah, we did that. The U.S. government and old Hillary. You have her to thank for that. And on to Venezuela news. And as you know, that is a failed socialist state. That's what Bernie Sanders wants to turn this country into, and all of his little minions. They want the streets to become so dangerous that people get burned alive for $5. Mob burns man alive over $5. Dozens of men loitering on the sidewalk next to a supermarket kicked and punched a 42-year-old until he was bloody and semi-conscious, all because they thought he had a criminal face. The mob went through his pockets and handed out wads of dollar bills to an old man, equivalent of $5. They doused his head with gasoline and flicked the lighter, and they stood back as he burned alive. We wanted to teach this man a lesson, one of the attackers said. We're tired of being robbed every time we go on the street, and the police are doing nothing. Vigilante violence against people accused of stealing has become commonplace in this crime-ridden country of 30 million. Once was one of the richest and safest countries in Latin America. They're sitting on huge oil reserves, and they're dead broke. Venezuela now has one of the highest murder rates in the world, and it is hard to find one person that has not been mugged. How could this happen? Well, I wrote on Twitter the other day. You can follow me at @Libertarian. Got some good traction. I basically said, why has Venezuela fallen? Because politicians think they can centrally plan the economy more effectively and efficiently than free markets. And after I tweeted that, I was looking around and saw this article. Venezuela should be rich, but instead is becoming a failed state. It's come to this. The country with the largest oil reserves in the world. I didn't know it was in the world, wow. The country with the largest oil reserves in the world, according to the Washington Post, can't even afford to brew its own beer, stay in its own time zone, or even have its own people show up to work more than 2 times a week. Incredible. Venezuela, in other words, is well past the point of worrying about economic collapse. It already has. And that's not even the worst of it. No, that's the fact that the state itself is near collapse. Venezuela already has the world's second highest murder rate. And now the Chavinista regime seems to be threatening violence of its own opposition succeeds in recalling President Maduro. This is entirely man-made catastrophe. That's not my words. That's the Washington Post. Matt O'Brien. This is an entirely man-made catastrophe. Venezuela, by all rights, should be rich, but economic mismanagement on a historical scale has barely left it with enough money to even, pay for printing money anymore. You're so broke, you can't even afford to print money. That's fucking broke. That's right. Venezuela is almost too poor to afford inflation, which is just another way of saying that the government is all but bankrupt. How did this happen? Rather than face the reality, Venezuela has opted for a game of economic whack-a-mole. It has tried to legislate inflation away by telling businesses what prices they're allowed to sell at, and even tried to wish it away by saying it doesn't exist. I was spot on. Thank you, Washington Post. You can't centrally plan economies. Period. Bernie Sanders says the U.S. kill list is super cool. Totally backs troops in Syria. Bro. This is from Mint Press News. Presidential contender Bernie Sanders said that in a town hall meeting, when asked if he too would have extrajudicial kill lists like President Barack Obama, the senator from Vermont recently said yes, and that the deployment of another 250 soldiers as part of the war against Iraq and Islamic State. He also endorsed that. When asked, do you think what's being done now is constitutionally illegal? A list of people that the U.S. government wants to kill? In general, I do, yes, Sanders replied. He's so loving and liberal, to channel Alex Jones. So loving and liberal. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm a pedophile, but not a monster, by Todd Nickerson. This guy... What is it with Salon and Raw Story and Slate and all these super lefty fucking what is this? Why is this being published? The guy should have his balls ripped off and thrown into a lake of acid with sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads. This guy is fucking sick. But, he gets published from by Salon. And there's a video that goes along with this, and he basically describes how he is sexually aroused by a 5-year-old that he was babysitting. He took a babysitting gig of a 5-year-old. He was so turned on by a 5-year-old that he had to go into the bathroom and jerk off. This guy is fucking sick. And here's his bio. Todd Nickerson. He is a moderator at the Virtuous Pedophiles Forum. What the fuck? Are you serious? Just go watch the video. It makes you want to fucking vomit. And basically, the story that goes along with the video, he basically just says, this is what happened. I was touched too, so stop hating me. I've been stuck with the most unfortunate of sexual orientations. No, you're a fucking sicko. A preference for a group of people who are legally, morally, and psychologically unable to reciprocate my feelings or desires. My name is Todd Nickerson, and I'm a pedophile. You need to be dead, or you need to be castrated before you hurt someone. He claims that I will never hurt anyone, I never have and never will, nor do I use child pornography. Well, it's only a matter of time, maybe. What the fuck, dude? Get a goddamn life. Fucking sicko. Anyways. And on to some smattering of news kind of hitting all points here. Superbugs could kill more people than cancer, report warns. And this is something that was really a conspiracy theory, just 5 years ago. Antibiotic strains of resistant bacteria just wreaking havoc. That was something that was on the fringe, but now here we go in the CBS News. A new report on the dangers of antibiotic-resistant superbugs warns that if major steps aren't taken to combat the threat, by 2050, such infections could kill 10 million people per year, an average of 1 death every 3 seconds. The review on antimicrobial resistance reports that up to 50,000 lives are currently lost each year to antibiotic-resistant infections in the U.S. and Europe alone. Across the globe, it's up to 700,000. If left unchecked, the spread of lethal infections could lead to an extremely disturbing 10 million deaths per year, more than what currently die from cancer. Can you imagine? The overuse of antibiotics means more bugs are developing resistant to the drugs and can't be wiped out with standard methods. Yes, and also all of the animal-based products, meat, dairy, eggs, all those animals are pumped up with antibiotics and hormones, and you're getting all of that secondarily through them. I want to say that a majority of the antibiotics that are produced in this country go to animal agriculture. It's incredible. On to more science news. Scientists discover a new form of light. Really, really interesting stuff. Researchers in Ireland have discovered a new form of light. Their discovery is expected to reshape science understanding of light at its basic nature. Researchers made their discovery by passing light through special crystals and created a light beam with hollow screw-like structures. Using quantum mechanics, the physicists theorized that the beam's twisting photons were being slowed to a half integer of Planck's constant. And that Planck's constant has to do with how we know light to behave currently. Pretty interesting stuff. And on to some kind of obscure news here. Yes, you could be fired for being too hot. Can't be fired for being a woman, but you can be fired for being too hot. A Manhattan judge has made a determination about a wrongful termination lawsuit brought by a beautiful blonde massage therapist against her ex-employees. The Manhattan judge disagreed with the woman's lawsuit, finding that hot women aren't protected by gender discrimination laws. There is no allegation that Edwards was terminated because of her status as a woman. With respect to whether appearance can be basis of discrimination, courts have not found discrimination when the subject, conduct, or policy has not been applied differently from women to men. So, if you're a hot guy or a hot woman, as long as they fire you equally, it's not discrimination. And on to my last 2 items here, 2 lists. Hate crime hoaxes, a list compiled by Reddit. And Reddit really is a good tool to use when you're trying to get specific information, especially when people use local news or more credible links. But the reason I bring this up is because of a few weeks ago, a gay guy went into Whole Foods, got a cake, said love conquers or something like that, and he claims that it said love conquers fag. Well, it turns out that he did it himself to get attention, I guess, or money. So I figured, well, and I've been hearing about other things too, that people set themselves up to be victims of hate crime. So let's just go through a couple of these here that have been compiled. Hate crime against black Iowa student turns out to be a hoax. Student lied about the report being racially motivated. Gay pastor who sued Whole Foods for writing a slur on his cake finally admits it was all made up. Yeah, after surveillance photos or video. Migrant teen caught sending anonymous hate letters to herself. Maryland University officials say racist drawing of lynching left on the library whiteboard was made by 2 black students. Now, that's not to say that hate crimes don't happen. Obviously they do, but it's all about getting attention for some of these people, which is really sick, because that stuff really does happen. And on to the last list here. This is from wearechange.org, and I've met Luke briefly at Cannabis Cup in Denver last year. Luke Radowski, the founder, one of the founders of We Are Change, super nice guy. This is a mega list of confirmed conspiracy theories, and there's got to be 200 or so items listed here, but I highlighted some of the ones that I thought were pretty interesting. Air America, CIA-owned dummy airline used in covert operations, including unwittingly, quote-unquote, transporting drugs and illegals. Bay of Pigs, the failed military invasion of Cuba, which is pretty well known now. CIA drug trafficking and smuggling in the Gary Webb suicide. Gary Webb explained how in the 1980s the CIA facilitated the sale of cocaine, and he ended up taking 2 bullets to the back of the head, but it was declared a suicide. COINTELPRO, an ongoing FBI operation to infiltrate and disrupt legal political groups. Yeah, that was used on JFK, or MLK. HARP, High Altitude Auroral Research Program. The use of this research facility is weather control. David Walker, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Air Force for STEM, said, "We're moving on to other types of managing the ionosphere, which HARP has already been designed to do, to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. But the work has yet to be complete. Conspiracy theories were right, but the subtext is something better." Operation Ajax, the CIA planned to overthrow the democratically elected prime minister in Iran, which was the start of the Iranian Revolution 20 years later or so, when they occupied and held hostage the U.S. embassy there. Yeah, if I found out that another country overthrew my democratically elected government and then installed the dictator that ruled brutally for 20 years, I'd be a little mad too. And lastly here, Operation Northwoods, proposed false flag of the CIA against Cuba, turned down by JFK. Yeah, it was a general that proposed it to JFK that they would stage terror attacks across the United States and blame Cuba as a pretext for war. So, yeah, fun stuff. Anyways, that is all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please follow me on Twitter at Slav Libertarian. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Slavic Libertarian. I have my RSS feed, so you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or any other medium you use to listen to podcasts. Please follow me there, and thank you for listening, and have a nice day.